Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Nice to see everyone this morning. And again, these sermons are brought to you by the Church of God Seventh Day with headquarters in Salem, West Virginia. Please contact us for any additional information. Before continuing with our series on the prophets, I wanted to go into what we call the kings, because there was a certain situation that it can be confusing when you're reading or studying in Scripture, because you start reading about the king of Israel, the king of Judah, and sometimes it's at the same time and it's a different name, and some people find themselves like, what's going on here? So I wanted to entitle this one today in Understanding the Kings. Okay? So when Israel first wanted a king, of course, we learned several weeks ago when we started our series on the prophets that Samuel was a prophet to the first king, and that was Saul. And so he anoints Saul, and soon to follow was, of course, King David. And David is followed by Solomon, and then Solomon is followed by his son Rehoboam. And therein lies the big issue. Okay? Turn with me, if you would, to 1 Kings chapter 12. And this Rehoboam, this was Solomon's son, was really not a nice king. He was not a nice person. And he caused a great split or rift in the kingdom at that particular time. The chapter, 1 Kings chapter 12, is actually, I have a little subheading, and it says, Accession and Folly of Rehoboam. And we'll read a little bit and we'll learn exactly what happened. And again, I'm doing this, I know some folks know a lot about this, but I think it's good to go over it again, because I think it will help us to understand the prophets a little bit better as we go down the road. All right. In 12 verse 1 it says, And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt. So there was a little bit of a dispute going on, but in verse 3 it says that they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous, now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve you. So they wanted to compromise. There was let's say it's like a dispute, and Jeroboam was in Egypt, but now Solomon has died. Rehoboam is going to become the king, and so they have a little sit down, right? And he says, listen, if we can kind of come to terms here, we'll solve our issue and get back together, and we'll serve you. There'll be no problem. And of course, it sounds good. I mean, all he had to do was say, okay, let's see what we can work out here. Well, when you drop down to, verse 5, it says, And he said unto them, Depart ye for 3 days, and come again unto me. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived. And he said, How do you advise that I may answer this people? And of course this was good. I mean, I think that, he realized that his father was pretty wise, and he had, counselors. And so he sits down with them, and basically he says, okay, what do you think I should do? But for some reason, he doesn't listen to them. And of course he listens to the younger advisors, in a sense, and said, no, don't give them any slack. In fact, he turns around and says, I'm going to make it harder. Instead of lightening your burden, I'm going to make it worse. And so when you come to verse 8, it says, But he forsook the counsel of the old men, which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him, and which stood before him. And he said unto them, What counsel give ye, that we may answer the people who have spoken to me? Make the yoke which thy father did put upon us lighter. And of course they advise him, don't do it. And so then in 13 it says, "And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him. And he spake to them after the counsel of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions." So here we have folks that are trying to get together and compromise, and he's basically saying, no way, it's, my way or the highway, and this is the way it's going to be. And so, of course, now we have this parting of the ways. So we come to 16, it says, "So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David?" So in other words, it's saying to themselves, well, this isn't going to work out well for us, and we're trying to compromise with the king, and he's basically saying we're not going to make the situation any better. In fact, it's going to get worse. It'd be like me saying to you, "Oh, you think you're paying 30% taxes? Well, I'm going to make it 50% or 60%, or, really, you have too much money, so I'm going to take some more." Anyway, so they said, "What portion," this is the middle of 16, "what portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel, now see to thine own house, David." So Israel departed unto their tents. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. So now we have a situation where we have this split. The larger portion, or 10 of the tribes, are going to go with and make Jeroboam their king. He's going to be their leader. And then, of course, if we read on, it says in 18, "Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stoned him with stones that he died. Therefore King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot to flee to Jerusalem." So Israel, now when it's talking about Israel, this would be the northern tribes, right? So Israel rebelled against the house of David being Rehoboam, unto this day. And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the congregation, and made him king over all Israel. That would be the 10 tribes. There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only. Now it says that, but in 21, it says, "And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah with the tribe of Benjamin, and 140,000 chosen men, which were warriors, to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon." So he was ready to go to war to try to hold it together, in a sense. That's what he wanted to do. So we have this split. Jeroboam is the king of Israel. They've made him king of Israel. Northern tribes, 10. Okay? King of Israel, northern portion, 10 tribes. 22. "But the word of God came unto Shemaiah, the man of God, saying, Speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and unto the house of Judah and Benjamin, and to the remnant of the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Ye shall not go up nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. They hearkened therefore to the word of the Lord, and returned to depart according to the word of the Lord." Okay? So now, this is what you got, right? We've got northern 10 tribes, King Jeroboam. Southern 2 tribes, King Rehoboam. Judah and Benjamin are the only 2. So you have a split. Now Jeroboam realizes that he has got to do something, because he knows how important it is for the people to go to Jerusalem for the holy days. It says, if you go back into, I guess it's Exodus, I think, where it talks about the fact that, it could be Leviticus, don't hold me to it, but it talks about the fact of appearing 3 times a year, in Jerusalem. That's where they should be, in Jerusalem. Jeroboam knows this. He realizes that this could be a problem for the future. So in 25, it says, again, a subheading of mine says, Jeroboam destroys the religious unity of the nation. And this is the real break, the real split here. It says, then Jeroboam, verse 25, built Shechem in Mount Ephraim and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam king of Judah, and they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam king of Judah. So he saw the problem. He realized this was a very difficult area, because he knew that people were going to go there and sacrifice. And there was a good possibility that they would really get back in line under Rehoboam. 28, whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Now again, right away back into idol worship, So he makes the idols of gold. And 29 it says, and he set the one in Bethel and the other he put in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one even unto Dan. And he made a house, this is interesting too, and he made an house of high places, and made priests of the lowest of people, which were not of the sons of Levi. So he did a lot of things. There's a lot of different things going on with this, the Jeroboam and this split. He undermines the religious aspect of what they do. He sets up places of worship in other areas than Jerusalem. He sets forth idols. He goes ahead and these high places are usually places of worship. And of course, then he turns around and the book of, I think, Leviticus is very specific. Exodus and Leviticus talk about who is supposed to become a priest and what are the characteristics that they're supposed to have and who they're supposed to be and where they're supposed to come from. And he just disregards that, and he made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. Specifically, the priests were supposed to be from the tribe of Levi. So he's really done many, many things here which are anti the instructions of the Lord. And 32 says, and Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month, on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah. And he offered upon the altar, so did the Bethel sacrifice unto the calves that he made. And he placed in Bethel the priest of the high places which he had made. So he's doing, he's doing all the wrong things. Okay? So, so again, remember what we've done here. We've got a new kingdom. But keep in mind that you have 2 kingdoms operating at the same time. And that's what becomes confusing. You have the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. So when you're reading and you're studying and you see those terms, I hope this helps you to determine, what you're reading about and who you're reading about and where they are. And sometimes it helps you to place them within the framework of the promised land and, who's doing what and why they're doing it. Okay? Now, this also sets the stage for the prophets, because you'll see that sometimes the prophet is the prophet to the north, and sometimes the prophet is the prophet to the south. He may be only, talking to the people in Judah. He may be only talking to the people in Israel. And also, you'll see that prophets, and I think I mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago. There are prophets that we would call pre-exilic or pre-exile or pre-dispersion prophets. Then there would be prophets that were profiting at the time of the exile or dispersion, and then there were prophets that were, that were counseling after they came back. And all this, takes a period of time. It goes over, several years, right? But again, I think what this helps you do is it helps you to place, the prophet and the time frame and, what you're reading in a little bit better light for you. Okay? Now, also keep in mind, and this was part of the prophet's job, but let's go to Deuteronomy 28. And I know I've mentioned this a lot to you over the years, but Deuteronomy 28 is very, very specific. Talks about conditions of blessing, and of course it goes into cursing. Really a very, very interesting chapter. But I want to point out to you today, when we go to verse 36, this will be Deuteronomy 28, 36 and 37. Now this is on the cursing side, right? So basically he's saying, if you do this wrong, you do that, you don't do this, you do these other things, then this is what's going to happen. 36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. Okay? So this was part of the cursing. And, historically, we know that that's happened. We know that, it's happened. And then if we go to verses 63 of the same book, chapter 28, it says, my subheading says, continued disobedience to be punished by a worldwide dispersion. 63. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shalt the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way, whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So this is a curse that Israel was given, basically told. In other words, this was prophesied. This was said, if you do good, then good things are going to happen. But if you do bad, bad things are going to happen. And then basically, if you persist, this is what's going to happen. And all those things came to pass. What we're reading about now in the framework of the Book of Kings is the start of the split and also the declining of Israel. Israel as a nation, of course, and then Israel as the new north, south, two kings. It's just really adding more and more to the problem. Okay, so now the folks didn't learn from their experience. They didn't pay attention to the leaders. They certainly didn't pay attention to the prophets. They didn't do it. And unfortunately, it was to their demise. So it's my hope today in going over this, it will lay the groundwork for what we're going to look into in the future, where we see how the prophets address these people. Because what's going to happen in the future, we're going to see where the northern portion goes into captivity first. And even after seeing that, you would think, well, surely Judah and the southern portion, they're going to learn. But they don't. And it doesn't happen at the same time, but it still happens. They're carried off into captivity as well. Okay? So that's it for today. We'll get back to our prophets the next time. If everybody would stand.